Hello, good morning. My name is Eva Mestre, and I'm going to give you a short introduction on terminology. This introduction includes a definition of terminology, also the difference, an explanation, short explanation of the difference between general and specific language. It also includes a little view of why terminology was created and by whom, and the types of structures where you can find terms, as well as the institutions who approve these terms. And then finally, we will talk about how we access this terminology. So first of all, when we talk about terminology, we are talking about communication. So it includes two sides. If you see here, the cognitive side, which is dedicated to ordering thought and concepts. So how do we think? How do we organize our thinking? And then the communicative side. What do we do with it? So how do we transfer knowledge? This is the most important characteristic of special languages, and it is that they use specific terms to do that. So terminology is used to order thought, transfer specialized knowledge, structure information contained in specialized texts. So if we want to talk about the difference between general and specialized communication, we need to refer to the definition of communication by Jacobson. He included 5 different elements, including the medium that we use to communicate, through which an encoder sends a message to a decoder, and then comprising the reality and the language that they use to communicate. However, a 6th element must be included in this graph, which is the prior knowledge. The prior knowledge they need to have in order to be able to understand one another. So this implies that the interlocutors already possess knowledge of the real world and the social norms they need to follow if they want to be understood. What type of text they need to use, what type of language they need to use, what conventions are necessary. When we talk about special communication, there are several restrictions that we need to pay attention to. First of all is that the two participants in the communications are experts in what subject matter they're talking about. They have shared knowledge about their area of expertise. Then the reference world of their communication is limited to a special field. They're not talking about generalities. They're talking about one particular thing. And then the text types they use to convey this communication are very specific as well. They cannot just be any, but they need to be informative and descriptive. So, as we are saying, specialized communication and general communication differ in 2 very clear ways. The types of text that they use and the words that they use to communicate, so the terms, the terminology. Concision is one of the main characteristics and reduces the possibility of ambiguity. And then the nature of scientific topics and technical topics and the relations among specialists, that's another difference. And then the communicative situation needs to be appropriate for the specific type of communication, specialized communication. Terminology helps in the original terms used for one specific concept. That means that there is one term for one concept, or that is the aim of this terminology. If we use one term instead of a paraphrase, or if we use a term instead of an explanation, we are contributing to precision, and it is the best resource to refer to an area of specialization. So if we use the specific terms that are needed in an area of specialization, we know that we are doing the proper thing to do. So for scientific and technical disciplines, terminology is the means of expression, so that's how they express. And then for the user, it is the a communicative unit. It is a tool. It is the way through which they're going to be known by their decoder, so by their interlocutor, and then that's the way they're going to be presented. So Eugene Vusta was the first person who was worried about terminology, and his objectives when he set out for this terminology development were to eliminate ambiguity, so to make sure that one concept refers to one word refers to one concept, and then to reach standardized terminology. That means that one person using one word is the same person, if this word is the same one used by another person to refer to the same thing. And there were standards that would guarantee that, and then to help it become a discipline, a scientific discipline. There are several structures in which we can find terms, terminology. These are glossaries, which includes words and their definitions. Keyword lists, which are lists of words related to one subject matter. Taxonomies, which are hierarchical. Or, for example, ontologies, in which there is a web of relations explained. Also, the types of terminology can be described as nomenclature, which is a set of terms composed according to pre-established rules, or terminology, general terminology, which is a set of terms representing concepts, as we have been talking about. Vocabulary is terminology accompanied by definitions or descriptions, and then classifications or ontologies. How is it that new terms enter the language? So there are general regulations designed to control and monitor the way in which new terms become part of the language. But however, unfortunately, the speed of science is not the speed of these regulations. So usually science is much quicker in its need for new words to name new concepts or new descriptions than regulation institutions are able to provide with. So these processes are not always identical. They don't usually go at the same pace. So there are very few cases in which the mechanisms meet the requirement of the scientists. There are several institutions in charge of guaranteeing these standardizations Versus talked about, and these guaranteeing that one term is included in the language and what it means. So, for example, we can talk about the European Associations for Terminology, or the International Organization for Standardizations, which everybody knows. In Spain, we know AENOR, and then for other languages other than Spanish, we can name Termcat in Catalonia, Euskalterm in the Basque Country, or Termigal in Galicia. So how do we access these terms? These terms are available how? Through the United Nations, for example, which publishes all their official documents in many different languages. On occasional glossaries, which appear in relation to subject matters. Online Dictionary of the European Union is another source. The European Union has dictionaries, specific dictionaries on all the languages used by the European community. And then occasionally, professional schools, for example, medicine or law, offer their online dictionaries. So in this presentation, we have talked about terminology, how it started, how it is standardized, how can we access this, and what is it useful for. Thank you very much for listening.